Thank you. Yeah, so for the final demo, to keep everyone awake, myself included, I'm going to make one of these. So this is, it's inspired by Victorian puzzle sphere boxes. So roughly 200 years ago, give or take, Victorians made these to hold trinkets or some jewelry or what's snuff, something like that. So it's a box within a sphere like this. Now this one has a contrasting timber, so you would find the push button, let's say, and you would press it out and the box comes out on the other side. And then of course you would open it and you would put whatever you want inside. A lot of my customers for these are women who put their rings inside and keep them in a bag or something. So it's quite useful little box. So it goes in like so. So this one isn't finished. This one isn't oiled. It's just sanded. And I'll show you there is a lot to cover, and a lot of technique goes into making one of these. So from jam chucking a sphere it's not difficult to make, but it's a little steps that if one step goes wrong, usually you are set 2-3 steps back. So or it just takes a bit longer. So that's why I think why I chose this project for the last one. First of all, it's a 2-hour demo, so it gives me a little bit more leeway room. But also I want to practice this in demo situations like this, because for the October I will be making, and also September I will be making these in symposiums, and I have to make it obviously nice and cool without any issues under an hour and a half. So usually it takes around an hour back home, but that again, if everything goes nice and smoothly as it should. So, but again, sometimes just a tiny bit of a mistake can throw you off. So what I have here is a chunk of walnut, and I have a little bar here, so but that doesn't matter. So this, for now, goes in between the centers, and I'm just looking at, this has more of a brown, dark brown patch here, so I'll use that for the sphere. Now, I'm going to do turning. That is, again, the mic. What I'll do is, I'll show you the process that I'm going with. Yeah, I know. These batteries doesn't like me, my voice.
And again, these batteries were already in use before.
Oh, I might be
Quite new ones.
Okay. Oh, nice. So the easiest way to make this box is, and that's the most efficient way, and I will do that at home as well, is to make them from different timbers like this here. So, or from different sizes, because you can see here I have a 70 mil square here, which I'll get a sphere here, but also I'll get a box out of it. And if I'm careful enough, I have a grain matching. So here it will match on the other side. So when you position this correctly, it will basically hide itself. So you should not be able to see where you need to open it and so on. But it's quite wasteful when you think about it, bringing down the blank from 70 to 35 mil, which is the inside box. So a lot of it waste. So what I would usually do is make blanks like these for the box, and I'll just go through effort to line up the end grain to centerpiece here. So if that makes sense, but again, it's a little bit more cost effective that way. Now, first step, and this is quite a lot of steps, and once you get all of the steps done, obviously you have a finished product. So it's not that difficult, but again, it's just following these steps. So this is now running at, we can bring this up, it's nice and clean, 1900 RPM. Now I would use mental spindle gouge to rough out the blanks, but I don't have it here, I have a ball gouge, so it will do the same job. Just removing Okay, so most of the corners are gone, and still has a little bit of flat. So from here I like to use the skew. Now, if everything goes well, I have another blank, and I would like to show you why the skew catches, and I'll show you the catches in real time and also how to prevent them. But again, hopefully, if we have the time. Now, I have the tool rest height enough, or it's high enough that I'm cutting roughly at 11 o'clock if I'm watching this end grain as a clock face. So that would be roughly around here. So I have it in comfortable position. Again, the blade is slightly higher, so it's a little bit awkward position for me, but nevertheless it should be okay. So I'm just trying to get this portion of the blank nice and clean. So this side doesn't matter all that much. But I'm just going to make it nice and cylindrical. This side, as you can see, it's nice and doesn't need any chewing up. Now, I'm just going to put a little bit more pressure here and back it off and then put it back on. The reason for that is I made a big indentation here, and that is used later to center everything. Because if you have bigger hole and smaller hole not in alignment, then you won't be able to push through the box. So it has to be as best as you can. Now there is slight taper to this side of the blank. Just get that out of the way. Now, first step is making a sphere. I have the calipers here. I measure the diameter. And I transfer that diameter as a length. So from the end grain, that's my length. And that's 70 mil. Now, I'm going to actually bring it down just a smidge. I like to be roughly at around 68 mil, 69 mil. And that's 68 point something. So that's my new length now. Transfer that, and that's 68, so the half of it is roughly 34. I'll go slightly less than that, and when I mark the centers from each side, I'll end up with a flat area here. So this is my center. For the time being, I don't touch that line.
What's the significance of the mill?
Sorry, over?
What's the significance of the millimeter between 70 and 69?
Well, just for the jam chops that I have here, just a little bit more convenience, but other than that, it's perfectly fine. Again, you can make, I made the biggest one, I think it was 100 mil diameter sphere, so, but that one I didn't drill out with a portion of it, I all done manually, so, yeah, so next step, setting your length. So I have a tin parting tool. This was a gift from Richard Bradford, so I always like to keep it on hand. Going straight in. And that looks okay. I'll widen it up a little bit. Okay, so as straight as I can, it's slightly out of taper, so I'll just correct that ever so slightly. Like so. Now, I like to work with center lines to get the spear. So what I mean by that is make this into half or split it in half. So each half will now get 4 sections. And now this length I'll transfer it down here, and also on the other side I'll do it by eye. So again, I don't measure it, I make these as fast as I can, and that works for me. Spindle gouge for this. Just removing those corners, so nothing to them. Like so. Now, you can use whatever tool you like to make the rough sphere. Well, I say rough sphere, we want to get it to as what we think is the best possible shape by eye, at least. Now, you can use gauges if you want half jigs or something, you know, templates or something like that. Again, I don't do that. I just do it by eye. The more you do it, the more you get better at it. So, skew, find the bevel. There's a lot to remove at first, so that doesn't look too bad, but I want to clean it up a little bit. Yeah, it's pretty good. Now on the left side. As I'm doing this, I'm watching the horizon, what's happening on it, so I can gauge where I need to trim it. And I have a little hump here. And sphere is constant curve, so there is no flat to it. But the closer I get to the middle here, without actually touching the better it will be. And also in the later stage, you'll see how I make it into perfectly enough sphere. Sphere. So, find the bevel. Doesn't look too bad. One more. Right down. And I'm okay with that. I'm just trimming the excess here. All the way down. I don't want to waste too much here timber, but that's good enough for now. Back with the parting tool, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the blade just lightly and stop here. So if I go all the way through at this stage, either the sphere or this blank will hit me in the head, so there's no point in showing you that. So that's my rough sphere. Doesn't look too bad. So just twist it, and now I have a nice sphere, and this will set aside just for now. Now I need to remove some of this stuff here. So while I do this, is there any questions that I can answer? Perhaps. If not, so the next step is making it as best sphere as I can, within limitations in terms of doesn't have to be perfect sphere, but close enough. So I'll put the chuck in, and I have, oops. So this is my Wickmark revolving center, and I have just this cap made with the hollow here and just slips over it, so nothing to it. Again, a lot of these stuff are just made, you know, at home. You make those yourselves. And chuck key. This is the same, but for the chuck side. And like so. That's good. So I'm going to extend the quill out. It's a long tool rest, so now we have it. It was like this, held in between the centers. So now what I want to do is rotate it in 90 degrees. And can you tell me what our grain is now representing when we rotated our blade from in between the centers to 90 degrees? That's the same grain as in bowls, right? When we're making bowls. So the technique is slightly now different. So the cuts are slightly different. So I want to jam this in between the centers, trying to get the line here perpendicular or parallel to the lathe bed as much as I can. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and tighten it up a little bit. That's good. Now, I don't see there is not much oscillation here. There is some, but not too bad, so I'm quite happy about that. Again, you might want to use shorter tool rest, but this one will do the job. Okay. Same speed, everything. This time I'll use a spindle gouge, but I'm going to sharpen it. Just with the sharpener, reduce the bevel angle. So with the height of this leg and everything, it's just a little bit different movement. So just getting back to what I'm comfortable with, if anything else. So I'm just going to extend that bevel ever so slightly. I don't need short bevel for this. So again, this is now cross grain. I'm going to go from a smaller diameter to bigger diameter. Just removing what's not in center. So what I mean by that, although I should maybe make this sphere much worse in the beginning so you can see there is a lot of, on the horizon here, there is a lot of wobble, and that wobble you want to remove. So getting down to the clear shape that you see below that wobble. And you can hear probably a little bit of that vibration. So just take your time, don't overdo it. Now I still feel a little bounce here in the middle, so I just want to check what's happening. So most of my line is intact, a little bit more here, so I can go slightly more. So this is one of the first steps that you want to do correctly, let's say. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect sphere, but you can't have a shape, because you won't be able to do the next steps. So that's good. Now what I'm going to do is turn this 90 degrees, 45 degrees. So roughly around here. And make sure it's nicely centered, and that's pretty good. Doesn't have too much wobble. Let's see how it responds to shear cut thing, okay? Again, now our grain is at an angle, so you don't know which kind of cut will make it nice and clear. So just take your time and just remove those high spots. And I'm only watching here what's happening. I'm not watching the tool itself, because I can't see anything on the tool. And I might have taken just a tiny bit here, too much, but let's see. So not that bad. I'm going to reverse it. So you can see there is a slight lump here. So now this goes, let's see where is my center, so it's here. So I'm going to put it back in between centers, which is here.
Sorry, 1 second, Thomas.
No problem.
Just a quick one. There's a pattern up Charlie and he believes we're in 3 o'clock. So anybody wants anything off him, we can do a call to before we go. Thanks.
Now hopefully, now it should be a little bit more visible. There is that bump that I took just a tiny bit too much of timber. It's slightly behaving. You can see the outline, and you can see how my finger is bouncing. So I want to remove that. Nice and gently. Like so. At this stage, line can go, so that center line doesn't have to stay. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Let's see what's happening. So, not too bad, but these bits here are a little bit rough. So, I think this would be the last flip or rotation, and it should be really good sphere. So this is now, again, a cross grain or side grain orientation. And I think that should be it. Now, there is not much sanding involved here, but what I'll do is just to refine what's here. 120 grit. Just to be fast and furious, so. This will remove any kind of lumps. Now, that was me a little bit too hard on the timber, so it slipped and it burned a little ring here. But that, again, doesn't matter. We're going to refine that later. And that's looking quite good. Let's sand it in multiple directions real quick and we can move to next step, which is one of the most important steps. Now I'll sand slightly less aggressive, just I don't burn too much of those black rings. So, turn it, where's my center? Here it is. So, put that on top, haven't sand that area still. So a little bit of pressure. And the final sanding of the box happens later. We'll see how I do that. Okay. That should be our almost perfect sphere. So doesn't look too bad in any directions. Now how it rolls, we'll see that later. So for now, what I don't need is the rolling center. So get that out. And what I do need here is, where did I put this? One step I haven't forgotten about it, but if I continue on, I will skip it, which is again not a good thing. So remove that. Now I need to find a jam chuck that will fit my sphere here. And I have multiples here. This is a cross grain, let's call it ball. So our sphere will go in inside one of these. So let's see, hopefully this one. You can see that holds relatively good. And I can gauge how good is sphere by the rim of the ball here. That's pretty good. Only in this orientation it's slightly off, but not by much. So I'm going to refine this one. This can go to a side. That's why I brought multiples. You never know. I can have a catch or anything, so I have to reduce the sphere down. It's much easier and saves a lot of time having multiple of these. Now, I have, hopefully you see that, I have marks and number 2. Now, why I mark number 2? Jaw, I cannot explain that, but pick a number. So, I have a number 2 here, and I just aligned that with the chuck and with the ball here. So these are now aligned, hopefully you can see that, and pressure here, and usually it will ensure that the piece, if it's dry, of course, will sit in the chuck the same way and doesn't warp or anything like that. And that's pretty good. We'll expand the opening ever so slightly. Now, I like to do that with the scraper. So, nice and light. So, oops, let's test the fit. Now, it does hold, and hopefully you can hear a little crunch. That tells me that it does want to squeeze it a little bit, but not too much. I want a little bit more crunch, let's say. So, you want to get this right because later we're going to do all the carving on this piece, on this jam chuck. So it holds it quite good, but I think I can get it slightly tighter so it grips a little bit better. I would rather want it to hold it tightly than loose, of course, and I can't tell you how many times it had happened when I'm doing the final bit of grooves on the sphere. Everything is done, sanded and everything, just a little bit half beads and so on, and the jam chuck sort of loosens and pops out the sphere, and of course on the knife it scrambles the sphere and basically ruins, or and of course it happens, lands on a piece of rock in the concrete and dings it. So you have to make a decoration out of that. So it's a mess, let's say. So you want to make sure that it's good as it can be. I think I'm going to start now and proceed forward. Yes, I can live with that. So I will put that center, revolving center, and if you remember, I left on purpose the center here. So now I'll use that to center my piece in. Again, this is pure end grain, center of the end grain, so everything is aligned, and when I'm making the box later, it should align with the box as well. So just push that in, and just to confirm how good this holds. Could be slightly better. We're not still close to the center, so bear with me again. All of these steps are crucial, especially when you're drilling the center out. I'll show you what I like to do to prevent another mistake. Okay, I think that's it. So center it, and I'm going to leave it as it is. We're going to gamble a little bit. You never know with these jam chucks. So next thing is 35mm force bit in a Jacob's chuck. So that goes in. Speed goes down. Roughly 500, 300 RPM, something in that range. Okay, that's it. So nice sharp drill bit. Now, drilling in is relatively simple. Pulling it out, that's the difficult bit. If you don't hold the sphere and while you're drilling out, if the sphere is pulled out and shifted a little bit, it's really hard to get it back in the center. And if you remember, it has to be center, otherwise the box just shifts a little bit and doesn't work as it should. So just take your time. Something's wobbling. Okay, now it's stabilized. So just take your time. Stop here and just tighten this a bit more. This will take a while, so. As long as the shavings are coming out like this, you don't have to pull it out. Now, another mistake that can happen is drilling too deep, and then you have a sort of a child necklace, for example. Again, as long as the shavings are coming out like this, you're fine. Now I'm going to stop here. Again, to pull it out, you hold the sphere and just lightly bring the bit out. I want to double check the depth. Oh, still have enough to go. But check that, because there is no good way of measuring how deep you want to go, especially when the spheres are always slightly different. So get the bit back in order. Very close, so goodbye now. Let's see what's happening. I can go slightly deeper. Again, don't pull it out, you have to keep it in place. I know it's tempting to pull it out to check how much depth you have, but trust me, it's not worth it. It's far more difficult to get it centered back. Even if you use like a flat piece of board here and press it in, it never goes in the way you want it. So slowly reaching the bottom, here it is. And also try to listen if the tone changes. Now there is a way we can gauge the thickness, slightly at least, and that is I'm going to switch to 15mm Forstner bit now, and of course this is now hot, so quick change like in Formula 1. This one obviously is not hot, but I go through and through now with this, and I can see, hopefully, although the light on this side is not great, I should be able to see roughly how much I have. There we go, so we are there, pull it out a little bit. Just go all the way through. That's one of the most difficult steps to do. After this, the things that you can do wrong are mostly the stuff like turning regular box. There we go. Now, I can already tell that I still have enough of the timber. I apologize for blowing in the microphone, but I'm going to gamble and go slightly deeper. And if I made a mistake, then you'll see how bracelets are made. Oh, it's hot, it's hot. Put in, like so. And stop. Okay. I think I don't want to gamble anymore, so I'm not good in this kind of gambling scenario, so we'll keep it relatively safe. And that we don't need anymore, like this one. And I can bring this out and just return it to its holder so it doesn't get lost. Now, next step, I'll just do it briefly, so it won't be a polished sphere, but I just want to do quick sand. And what I like to do is, let me just see where I have this. I have this narrower, so regular sheet is like this. I cut it in half, and I fold it in three again, like so, and I bend one end like so. And bring now a bit more speed. Not 3,000 up here, it doesn't need that much. So goes in, and this fold will go into corner and center corner as well. And a little bit of action on the end grain. So we do a little finger movement and the opening as well. Yeah, I won't sand this the way I would usually sand it, so there we go. Let's see the surface here. Walnut on the side grain here doesn't like to be cut with the forstner bit, so this doesn't look that good to me, so I'll go in reverse and do a quick reverse sanding just on the side grain. I won't bother with the end grain so much. I'm not using a lot of side pressure, I don't want to pop the sphere out. But at this stage, if it does come off, I'm finished mostly with it, so I don't need perfect center at least, like so. So again, just rough sanding, and let's need to puncture that through. There we go, use the key. I'm going to clean this up with should have done that maybe a bit deeper, but I was assured that I went through. So let's see. I can't go it the same way, but I can maybe the other way around. So this comes off for the moment, and said that I don't need a Jacob's chuck, but we'll have to use it for a moment. And here's this guy. So, bear with me for a few seconds. So it's nice and clean hole on both sides, so nice and crisp details. So I don't need any more. Are there any questions I can answer or change this? No?
So is that 15mm hole just for the button push?
Yeah. So that's
What thickness have you left inside?
the thickness here. Actually, as I'm looking at now under the light, I could go slightly deeper. It, at the moment, is roughly 12 to 14 mil. For example, I can maybe check it a bit precisely. So, yeah, that's roughly. Just give me a sec. Says 17 mil. But I can go again slightly thinner than that. But the issue here is at the inner diameter of the 35 mil, the bottom corner. Obviously, that corner will come out here somewhere if you go too deep. But again, this can be done slightly deeper. But again, getting it now center, it's not worth it. So just use whatever we've done at this point. So next stage, the box. And this is where a lot of the fitting is done. And this should, hopefully, this is the one benefit of Wickmark chucks. You have a great travel. So you can see with this small of a chuck, I can grab small diameter, but also these big ones. Although it doesn't matter that it's completely centered in the chuck, obviously this is too much. So just give it a tap with a Wickmark hammer. Again, there is a lot of material here, so it doesn't need to be completely true, but if I want to keep the grain aligned, more, there we go. And just tighten that. Clean your blank, that's first step. A bit more speed. Again, roughly 23. That's a little less. And don't have to be that fast. So I just clean up the diameter. Okay, so the end grain here, I like to do it with spindle gouge, use a bit more control. Okay, so, and now we have to take first measurement, and that is 15 mil for the sphere, sorry, for the bottom here. And I just hold it like so, and oops, oh wait. So you tighten the calipers. There we go. And that's the diameter that I need. So peeling cut with the skew. This is where I like to use the headstock as a hand rest. You see, just by slightly raising the lathe, the kind of position, and I'm usually at the 11 o'clock position here, but just because it's too high, you have to do this. So again, just make sure at home you have your lathe set up to height for you, so that makes sense. Okay, that's good. And I want to have this tight fit. Just slightly taper it, ever so slightly, and it will tell me where it wants to fit. So here we go. And you don't have to sand much this little stump. Not sure if you can pick that on the camera. You can see it polished. That's already sanded for you. So just the friction from the timber sands this little lump here. So the first part, it's too small, so I'm going to ditch that. But now I have a diameter to go for. Like so. And I'll clean up the end here. So, put that in the nose. Right down into the corner, like so. And now I have that polished surface on the little stump here, and I'm just going to use a slicing cut to make it nice and cylindrical all the way. It's slightly tapered, but let's see how that fits. So I know it fits all the way here. It's getting quite tight as I push it all the way in. So I have a nice rub mark where what I need to remove. So you want to get this right. This is what will dictate most of the fit for your box. Now that's a bit too tight. Okay, that should be okay. It's a little bit too tight. So again, just take your time. I think that should be it. What I'll do is just find 400 grit sandpaper, just tiny dab. Okay, that's good. And next diameter is 35 mm that I need to set. So that's there. Make sure you're in the center. That, and I'll transfer that to the piece. There we go. All this is now waste. So hopefully you can see why I usually switch to smaller blanks for the box. If I make sure that I'm sort of getting the color and everything right on the same slab. But I'm wasting a lot of wood here. So this is just peeling cut. Now, the next step, I want to get this so it doesn't rattle here, at a slight taper, ever slight taper. So as the spear goes on the box part will get tighter and tighter. So like so. So it just barely fits on the opening here. So that's good. And it's tapered, so I'll slightly reduce that taper on the bottom part. Like so. And while I'm here, I'll just clean up the end right here one more time, since now it's smaller diameter. Go slightly deeper, and roughly this area will make a small bead. Now that bead will reduce the diameter here ever so slightly, so when you're closing the box, it will make that kind of click. So that's what I'm after. So just a small bead, like so. This side is a little bit more trickier because I have this in the way of the skew, so I can ruin the box quite easily. So just a quick sand on that. Now getting back to fitting the main body. So give it a little rotation, gives me exact location where it rubs, and I'll just slightly extend that. Like so. Let's give it a quick rub. That will even out any bumps, slight. Okay, it rubs slightly higher, a little bit, not by much. Dab of sandpaper. And now it's, again, slightly higher up. 400 would seems a bit too gentle sandpaper for this, so 320. Oops. Okay, getting closer. You can see it here. Again, as I'm watching this, there is a bit more taper here, so remove that. Okay. The reason why I'm sanding like this along the way, and we start to poking through here as well now, is I want to get sanding process done, because if you fit perfectly the box part and it fits into your box, and now you have to do sanding, obviously you will reduce diameter with sanding. So that's why I'm trying to keep as best surface as possible, but only use final grit sandpaper just to polish it up ever so slightly, and it gives a good finish at the end, and I'm done with sanding and everything. So that's why I'm doing this along the way rather than sand at the end. So. There's a bit more sanding that needs to be done on the inside of the sphere. So I'm almost through here. Almost. So I'll go slightly higher again. That should be really close. You can see now it's coming out. Now this is that smaller diameter which I haven't trimmed, so this still has to go in quite a bit. You can see now I have two rubbing marks, so here and here. So if I do more sanding here, it will be slightly more tapered like this, the inside of the sphere. So you have to adapt for that as well. That just polishes up a little bit. And I think I'm all the way through now. Now it's still, obviously when I shape this, it's still a little bit too tight. You can't push it out to the sphere. However, there is a step that I can do now, which I fancy to have it a tight fit like this, and that is shaping and doing the first details on the bottom here. So that's now ready for quick sand. And I'll just again do brief sand next to the line, which is 180 degrees. Just to show you how it's done. And now I can trim this lump here. Now again, you saw I don't use any jigs or any templates for the sphere. So the way I make sure that this is part of the sphere as well, not just a flat or anything like that. First, at around 45-degree angle, I'll remove all this along. So that looks something like this. And now I'll gradually start to bring the handle up away from me, and I'll make sure that it looks right. If it looks right, then for the most human eyes, it is right, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So, nearly there. That's pretty good. So now all of this can be sanded. Now you can, if you want, if your fit is tight, you don't have to do any kind of details. You can leave the smooth sphere, and just to show you how that looks, not sure how much you'll be able to see on the camera. So let's try to line the brain. Almost perfect. You can see there is a slight deviation, maybe 1 mil. I hope that's visible with discoloration, with grain here. But that's pretty darn close. And when you do it nice and tight, there's hardly any noticeable opening, let's say. So you really don't know where to open it. But I like to emphasize that because this likes to move, like any timber, any box. It will move and you'll feel slight ridge or something, so doing any kind of decoration will prevent that. So this is no new fancy tool. So this is just an old Sorby tin parting tool, and what I've done to it is grind it to a very specific point. So it's a very sharp and thin point, with 2 radius on each side. So what will give me is groove with 2 half beads, let's say. So that's part of how I do the grooves on the outside. Now, when I do this, usually I had this without a handle, but I thought I'll make the handle for the demo, so it's not just a tool, you know. So, like any other scraper, I hardly can see the line where it is. So, excuse me, it's again a little bit darker on this area. So I'm just going to emphasize where it is, the seam. So it's here. And right here. Then I like to do maybe 2 mil away and maybe 1 inside. Whoops. Like so. Now while I have it like this, I can make other decorations if I want. You just have to be aware that in this area, although not in this case, but usually when you drill it correctly, at this area here is the thinnest part. So you can go through if you're not careful. So just be aware of that. I think I'm going to keep it simple like this. 180 grit, just to sand the grooves a little bit. Doesn't need much. And one more time to rub. Good. So that's the bottom portion finished. That looks good. And again, it's a tight fit, so we'll have to loosen that up, but I have ways of dealing with that. Now, when I puncture through the seam, usually it's left with a relatively fragile point here, or corner. So what I like to do is just clip away the very corner here, just a tiny bit, like so. So when you're pushing it through with your fingers, it doesn't chip out, so this is much more user-friendly. Also, what I forgot to do is, on the bottom here, I like to do a V-cut. This is where the chuck will register, and it will register each time, because sometimes with these boxes, they can move a lot, and you want to adjust the fit throughout maybe a week. Because this, again, you're hollowing out a lump of timber and it wants to shrink and expand. So you just wait for a week and sand wherever tiny bit that you have to sand. So I also put a little decoration here and clip this side as well. Now again, you would sand if there's any details at the bottom here or anything like that, you will sand that out. The next step is to part this off, and I forgot to mark where the end of the sphere is, and that's here. And I'll just part it off slightly below that line. How much below? So, couple of, let's go 1.5. So that's maybe 2 mil away from the line. So that's the box. We'll have this like this. I could chew it up here, but I'll do it later. So this is where I'm going to make a lid from. So this is the fit I need for the lid. You can see it's just barely fitting over, so I already know the diameter that I need. But I need to hollow out the box. So this comes out, and the box comes in. So this is where this groove here comes in handy, because it will register the same. And if I have to adjust anything, any kind of fit or anything like that, I can do it, and it will be nice and true in the chuck. So clean up the end grain. Like so. And I'm going to make a flange for the lid. I usually go about, that's around 6-7 mil. And I go deep enough that I have enough meat on the lid so it's not fragile. If you get this too thin, or sorry, too shallow flange, then the lid can be quite brittle, it can be quite thin wall, and you don't want that, because you're going to twist that and open up and so on, so you have to make it a little bit more substantial. just clip that corner, and let's now cover this up real quick, and I'll use square and scraper this time. This is smaller one. You saw me use bigger version, this is smaller one. Stop there, check the depth, still have enough. To rest slightly harder, go slightly deeper. And I think that's deep enough. So let's see. Oh, I still have enough. So I find the center. Obviously I can't see what I'm doing here, so everything is done by feel. So I find the center and I drill through that center, just pushing in straight. And then I step out the remaining bit, like so. Now to get the nice clean sides, I like to use a skew. Now obviously smaller one will be better here, but this one will do the job as well. Again, I'm not trying to make this super thin box. Nice and gently. I'm now in the corner, and I just move away from the corner so I have a nice crisp detail right down in the corner. And I'll use the point of the skew. Well, this one won't work, so usually I will do the detail with my narrower skew, but let's use this. So a little decoration on the inside. So you would sand this at this stage, and this would be a good comparison to the drilled out surface that I have here. Even though I've sanded it, hopefully you can see it's quite rough here. So what I would do to finesse this inside, because this will involve a lot of sanding and you risk of walnut is one of the timbers that like to heat check. So if you sand it too hot, it can split on the end grain here. So what I will do is go one more pass with the skew on the inside and just make it as clean as I can. And then I could use 180 grit, let's say, for the inside. But it will be a cool comparison to see the tool finish inside the box and inside the sphere here. So that's pretty much done. What I'll do actually is just a quick touch up with the sandpaper, so the corners are not sharp. So like this, and a little bit on the flange. Flange is nice and straight for now at least. That up. So the box is, well, the base of the box is finished. Now it seems that I can go slightly deeper. Yeah, I can go slightly deeper, so just to make the use of the box, the entire inside of the box, I'll go slightly deeper. You can see I'll pull it out and put it back on the chuck, still runs the same. So I fill the center along. That's it. And back at the skew, just the lower part that I've gone deeper. Just clean that up real quick. Like so. And I'll walk detail, so just poke that. So, now it's finished. Yeah. Now, since I've removed the flange here, which was the tightest part of the fitting, this should slide in relatively easier now. Well, at least a little bit. But this can be a tricky part, getting it out. So just use wherever you have on hand to push it out. Obviously, you don't want to damage it. And you can see we need to loosen the fit a little bit. There we go. So I won't do that again until I clean this up. The lid. I have my blank here, and I'll use the original mark. You can see on the piece to grip it in the same spot. And it is a little bit counterintuitive to do the base first with the flange and then the lid. But I'm going to do the lid super tight, and then I'm going to finesse back the box. I'll put back in the chuck and finesse the flange one more time to get the perfect fit. But there are a few extra steps that needs to be done until we get to that stage. So this now runs nice and true. I haven't lost any of my diameter. So yeah, it's pretty good. I'll use the square and scraper again, just to clean up the end grain here. Going straight in the length of the flange here. That's roughly there. And I'll just measure this real quick. Tighten it up. Well, I'm actually quite close. So it doesn't need much. For the last pass, I'll use again skew. Because of the double angles and nice sharp point here, and I have a rounded corners on my skew, so it's much easier. It's easier to roll. You get a really good finish. Slightly better finish than with the square and scraper, which you have to use it at a certain height. Because if your tool rest is too low, then this area will rub up against the box or any kind of inside that you're hollowing out. So you only have to use the top portion here. With the skew, well, not every skew, square side skew will have the same issue. And actually it will be much worse to do this. But if you have a rounded side, that rounded portion will fit nicely into curve on the inside, and you'll make your point right in the center of it. Pull the tool rest slightly away, and again I can't see much, but nice and slowly, and I'll slightly undercut this. What I mean by that is the opening on the lid is smaller than the back of the inside, so just a tiny bit. So still good to go. Now maybe I've gone a bit too far, let's see. Yeah, not much, but a little bit too far. Not a huge issue, we still have a lot of blank here, but that means I have to bring this down, like so. Make it one more time, so. Not too bad, at this stage, first mistake, I can take it. Before before I take the final pass. This might be quite close. And that is quite close. Just clean up the end grain here a little bit. Just I'll also deepen it ever so slightly. Like so. And also what I like to do, just for fun, a little dome on the inside, so I'll use this asymmetric curved scraper. Now this is where we can break the rule with standard scrapers having that negative angle. You'll see now I'll drop the handle down and nothing happens. Well, it does happen something, and that is I have a nice shear action on the end grain just because of that. And the reason I can do that is, first of all, the grain orientation. The grain is running this way, parallel with the laid axis. And the other thing is, when I drop the handle down, the surface I'm scraping on the inside, on top of my scraper, is way, way less than 90 degrees. If it's more than 90 degrees, you'll have a catch. Doesn't matter the grain direction or anything. So, what I mean by more and less 90 degrees, this is less than 90 degrees. If I'm scraping this a little bit here, this is more than 90 degrees. So even though I drop the handle on the inside, the surface on the inside that I'm scraping is less than 90 degrees. But as I'm moving towards the center, you saw me lifting the handle back up. So if at the very center, if I drop the handle down, it will be another catch. So it's understanding the grain and how it works really can help out with how you can approach with the timbers. Now I can slightly turn this ever so slightly, like so, and I'll just flip this corner. There we go. Now, back with the fitting of the sphere. We repeat the steps that are done for the lower part of the box. So slightly off, not very much. So what I'll do is just get this like so. I can go the other way to get a cleaner cut. Now obviously you want to push this all the way, but still won't go, because this is at an angle. So just take your time. A little bit, almost. Now this is where it's tempting. You can use either tool or you can use the sandpaper, so which you are more comfortable with. Now obviously sandpaper would be easier, but it can distort the surface, and I want to have it nice and round so when it fits here, it hides itself. So I'll go with the skill, just nice and light, and I'll expand this seam here. So, double check before I touch it with the sandpaper. Okay, a bit more. A little bit of patience here goes a long way. Now I can do a low peel with the skill, like so. Just a little bit of a scraping action. That's, we're getting really close now. Are we good on time? So, little by little. Almost we're poking through. this is now where you want to, decide which approach you want to go. Most of the fit I'm getting from the little stump of the bar. We're almost, well, I can push it all the way. Now that's seated. That's good, but it's again too tight. And actually while I'm here, it pays off just to round over this a little bit. When it goes with this area here that I just clipped a little bit so it's not sharp and brittle, it will nest it nicely again with each other. So you want to have this nicely spinning, but not loose and rattling. That's almost perfect, I would say. Needs a bit more push towards the end. That's it. For now, I'm going to leave it as it is. We can later trim everything. Now, I can part this off, leaving the extra material. So, now to get this back to center and back into our jam chuck, first I need to bring the box in one more time. There we go. A little bit easier to pull it out, but still there's too much pressure. So this goes back on, like so. Make sure it's nicely seated in that groove. That's good. Now the box is seated nicely. And first step of what I'm going to do, before I make sure the fit of the box is good, I'm going to trim this. And I'll make a small indentation. Similar to our sphere in the beginning from the point, from the revolving center. And now I have the box fitting almost perfect, and also it has a nice pop fit, but it's a little bit too tight. What I like to sand now, don't use the tools here, just a tiny bit of a fine sandpaper. I usually go just in the very corner and sand a little bit, and then just brush it straight outside, out the edge. So it will get tighter here, but slightly looser as it comes in. A little bit. Leave it as it is. Now, there is one step that could be difference between failure and success here. If I made this lid any looser than this, I would have an issue making these grooves here, because if the lid is too loose, when I come to press this, as you see now, it will just spin when I try to make a detail. So you have to have enough of a friction to hold the lid on, and later you can loosen it up, but I think this should work. So make sure it's seated all the way. Now it is. And I need my jam chuck back. And again, number 2 jaw. Again, I'm not sure why I choose number 2, but it sort of always falls in a line sight when I start the lathe, so it should again run nice and true. And that little indentation that I've done here will help me align the sphere back into its original position. So a lot of these steps, as you can see, I've developed to make my life a lot easier to rechuck this and make it as fast as I can. So a little bit of pressure. It's not hugely off, but it's centered enough. Spin the gouge. And the rest is too long. So I'll have it at an angle and just put this at around 45 degrees. Same as the little stop in the bottom. So like this. Now of course it's not part of the sphere yet, so again, just bring the handle away from you a little by little. Step back. Usually you have some sort of background to make sure you can see the outline. A bit more. Have to look it on the banjo, which is white. So a tiny bit more here. I think that's good. Okay. That's loose. Doesn't look too bad. There's a little spike in the very center. Okay, that's good. Now you can sand. There's one. And that's now basically finished. You can, again, leave it if you want like this, but again, I like to put details in it. And this is the tricky part. If I take it out, it's really hard to get it back in centered the way it's now. I have to trust that the jam chuck is good enough that I can do this without popping you out. So we'll see how it goes. Just in case, I like to put the hands or wrap the sphere around, just in case, again, I have a concrete floor, it's wooden, so it's okay if it drops down, but on concrete, it does make more damage than on timber. A little rock, back and forth. So far, so good. Little skate. But I've made the transition, so let's see the damage. Right through but I can fix that. All I have to do is make sure that I align with the grain. This is the good scenario, by the way. There we go. So if I take this out, remove the lid, I'll adjust the base first or align the grain. So I'll show you how we can fix that. So that way, and I need to align the grain here, so that will be around here, roughly. Push it all the way in. So the important bit is I've made this ring here, so that's good. Now the way to fix this would be to place it across, like so. There we go. That should stay. Hopefully. And I'll just mark where that little There we go, we're here. So just mark that, like so. Now this is where it usually wants to pop out, not the other way around, because we're going through these recesses, so you have to be really careful. So let's see. Okay, I've mostly removed any evidence of that. Okay, that's pretty good. So you can see where the design opportunities come from when you're making stuff like this. Okay, without keep the grain orientation and everything the way it was. And I have another scuff here which I want to get rid of. So let's play around. There we go. I'll do one more and that's it. Just going through this a little chip out that I have. There we go. That will go. So much sandpaper around. Sand on everything. You can use your jam chuck to sand. You can see I still have a burned ring from before. Now it's gone. Now you hold. There we go. Maybe I should have one more. Because you can see the damage where it is. It's not much, but let's see if I can center this.
Famous last words. Famous last words.
Yeah. Let's see if I can center it by eye. Not perfect, but just to try to at least sand it a little bit, so you kind of show the evidence of mistake. Okay, that's it. Let's see. The fit is just a bit too tight. The last bit at least. So I'll just quickly finesse that just to show how I do that. So the box goes back in. So, and again I have this serrated edge here, which can be quite brittle. Just want to clip it lightly with a skewer, like so. And the same as I've done on the lower hole. I just round over the opening here, just a little bit. Obviously we'll go through the sanding, grits and so on, but so that's in terms of that. And now I'll flip it around. The fit on the box still needs just a little adjustment, just a tiny bit. Now that's done, or at least should be. Yeah. And I'll flip it around, and usually I would put a little bit of a paper towel so the teeth doesn't mark the grain here. But I'm just going to use a really light pressure, just a tiny bit. And this is the part that rubs the most, or getting the tight fit the most. So just a hair sand, like so. Again, I will repeat this process throughout the week, just to make sure that the fit is right. Now, when you have these cross-matching lines, like I have in this case, you have to make sure that these will align. So let's see where this fits around. A little bit of a puzzle. There we go. Now as the lid comes in, it gets slightly tighter as well. So now I know that I can push it out, but the lid is getting just a tiny bit tight. So back in a chuck, and just a quick scuff with fine sandpaper, just a tiny bit. Polish couple shaves. So you can see it's quite fiddly job. It's not so much difficult, but it's a fiddly job. Where do you want to align? Let's see. Go. Nope. So I think that's it. So we can pop it out. We can open the box. Grain on the box is mostly matched. And once we match where these cross rings go, it should line up. There we go. Thank you, thank you. Again, it went a little bit better than, again, usually there is always one mistake like that, popping out of the jam chuck, but that's, as you saw, we can work around that, make slightly different pattern or something to fix that. So, is there any questions that I can answer?
Are you going to have to make any allowance for the fact that the finish might change the dimensions when you're packing it?
As soon as you put the finish on, it will actually calm down the movement because the wood will absorb less moisture and let it out as well less. So I would put an oil on as fast as I can. Again, after a week, let's say, I would put the oil on. I always wait and finish that sanding process throughout roughly a few days a week. Just to make sure that the box has moved and I can trim everything that's slightly rubbing, let's say. So, any other questions?
Have you ever made the box look?
Sorry?
Have you ever made that in the box look?
No, I haven't. That would be, it doesn't have distinctive grain pattern, so it can be quite visually appealing, but I don't have the access to box wood, so. Any other questions? So hopefully you enjoyed these 3 demos, and again I just want to say thank you for inviting me. It was it always is a great time to come back to Ireland, and once again thank you for everything. And there is a tea and biscuits there, and I think we should do the raffle as well, right? So, yeah. Oh.
Thanks very much. I thought they were great demos.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.